Well, good evening and welcome to Game on Vegas. I'm Chris Matthews along with Gilberto Obregron, and welcome to the show. This is the Valley's #1 Sunday night sports show, so we thank you for spending 30 minutes with us tonight. Now, the party, Gil, never ends for the Vegas Golden Knights.
It is Las Vegas. I mean, party has to keep going. On the show tonight, we'll talk about the Stanley Cup champions, of course, and the parade was, like we just mentioned, it was one for the history books.
It was absolutely off the charts. Metro releasing numbers saying there were over 200,000 people on the Strip. We both had an opportunity to see those numbers, and it was really, really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, just looking from the studio, I was wishing I was out there, with the guys enjoying the parade, and you were there taking it in person, and from what we were looking at in the studio, it was party and a bunch of celebration. The Golden Knights, of course, having the celebration they deserve with the city. And a bunch of Golden Knights fans, whether they've been here from the beginning or they just started being Golden Knights fans, they definitely looked like a fun night.
And we mentioned the crowds. That was the biggest crowd along the Strip. You got New Year's Eve, but when the Knights fans came out and they showed up, it was a lot of fun. You look at the streamers, just a great time.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of that, I had the opportunity to talk to Jeff Sharples earlier today about the Knights and the entire run they mentioned, the regular season, and even some key players. Not everyone, is mentioning that everybody playing a huge role in the championship game. So let's take a look at that conversation. I want to get into the upcoming offseason for the Vegas Golden Knights and their front office, which I'm assuming is going to be pretty busy. But first, I want you to take me back to this playoff run that just ended not even 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. In your opinion, what was that moment or that game where that stood out the most and you kind of felt like, okay, this team's special, this team could do something? Was it round one, round two? Was it before the playoffs? Or in your opinion, what was that moment?
It's kind of funny that you asked that, because I think the Golden Knights never really got a lot of respect for the kind of team that they had during the regular season. I think they had a chip on their shoulder. I think that in the first game against Winnipeg, you throw that out, the rest of the playoffs, they were unbelievable. Maybe they would have liked a period or two back in the Edmonton series, but overall, I think the turning point might even come back to training camp, where they came in, they had a chip on their shoulder, they had something to prove. They weren't getting the respect around the league, and and then even in the Winnipeg series, people were picking Winnipeg to be the upset. Then the Edmonton series, everyone loved the two superstars that Edmonton has. Then Dallas series, it was Jake Ottinger was going to take them out, and they just kept on going and going. And I think the big key to their season was they didn't rely on any one person or one player at any time. I think it was actually done, by committee. And yeah, they've got their superstars, but everyone had a hand in it at the end. And I think as the season went on, everyone kept asking why Coach Cassidy's gunning for first place, because he said every night they want to win. And ultimately, that's what they did in the regular season, the best Western Conference team, and in the playoffs, they were by far and away the best team.
Now, individually, was there a specific player, besides, of course, the stars, Mark Stone, Aiden Hill, and Jonathan Marchessault, that stood out to you that, that you may say, well, without him, this run is impossible? One of the big names that people, may be overlooking.
Well, I think if you look back to William Karlsson, he had his game right from the start of the playoffs. He was amazing. He made a lot of big plays, helped the other guys get going, get into the playoffs. And then, Pietrangelo, you can't underestimate what he brings to the team. He plays in every situation. He plays somewhere between 23 to 25 minutes a night, which is a huge amount of ice time, especially in the playoffs. And of course, the goaltending was terrific. But if I was going to go back and pinpoint one player to get the ball rolling, I'd go back to William Karlsson at the start of the season, or start of the playoffs.
And he had a great parade speech as well. So.
Yeah, he was the MVP the whole way.
We can't forget that.
All right, now most of the pieces on this team will be coming back. That's the good news.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you're a Knights fan, of course, you want to just run it back with the same amount of guys. But, of course, as we mentioned, it's easier said than done. Me and Jeff also spoke about that. Let's take a look. In an ideal world, I think, you re-sign Barbashev and you bring back Aiden Hill. But, of course, that's not always going to be possible. In your opinion, which one of those two guys is more important to bring back, or which one should the team prioritize first?
That's a great question. I think you'd love to have Barbashev come back, but he might have priced himself out of the market for what the Golden Knights can pay. I mean, they're going to be up against that cap again. Mr. Foley said it time and time again. He's going to spend to the cap. He's going to put the best team he can on the ice. So we've got a pretty strong cap. You're going to need some guys to fit in. Probably. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Barbashev. I think he's going to have a lot of suitors. Aiden Hill, you're hearing right now that Aiden Hill's going to be coming back. I think that's a great move. Get him back. He needs to be paid. He was unbelievable in the playoffs. He's going to get his money, and we'll see how the term works out, how long the Knights sign him for. But if Barbashev doesn't come back, another guy who's a restricted free agent they have to lock up, I believe, is Brett Howden. He came on like gangbusters as the season went on, an integral part of the team as well. So you'd love to have them all come back, but the one that concerns me the most right now is Barbashev, just because of the dollar figure and the term that he will command.
All right, and there is some talk that perhaps Aiden Hill might have a contract already done there, Gil. They're looking at perhaps $4.9 million for Aiden Hill. Now, he had a big playoff series, no doubt. He came in for another goalie who was injured. So we'll see what happens with this situation. But Barbashev's a big deal. We'll see what he'll have, what he does, and will they keep all these golden misfits around for another season? That's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think like we mentioned, Chris, you want to not only keep the misfits together, but since you've done it once already, you want to keep those key pieces together, and you want to keep the team score aligned, and then keep them from next year and run it back again.
Yeah, exactly. And one more thought on that parade. I thought it was really fun. Really impressed with this. The Larry Johnson number 4 worn by Hill. I thought that was really neat in that parade where he gets out there on the stage and he wears that number 4 jersey. I thought that because he thought ahead. I thought it was neat that he did that.
Yeah, I think it was the perfect recipe just to show the city that he's involved with not only the Golden Knights, but he's involved with the UNLV, and he knows what the city is about. I actually spoke to Jonathan Marchessault. And then, he said he didn't know about it, but once he saw the jersey, he was pretty impressed and he liked it. So.
All right, Jonathan Marchessault, you mentioned you had a chance to speak with him on that same subject. And was he pretty surprised?
Yeah, he said he didn't. Of course, Aiden Hill didn't tell nobody he was going to wear that. And once they pulled up to the parade, he saw it and he was like, "Oh well, it's pretty neat." Yeah.
I thought that was really neat that he did that. So checking out the Golden Knights, and how about those guard tryouts? That's something that that happened today, didn't it?
Yeah, I was there earlier today, and these people are the people that take care of the ice itself during the game. So you probably don't really get a chance to see them unless you actually go to the arena and watch a game, and that's because they're cleaning them 3 times during the period and also during the timeouts. Today they were there to just, their tryouts were there to check out their tryouts, which, by the way, they are harder than what they seem. They're put through several different movements on the ice, different techniques as well. I spoke to a member who's been there for a while now. She's also, required to try out yearly, and also a former UNLV hockey player that's looking to get into the club.
All right, so we'll see what happens with those two as they try to make the club there the Knights guard. But what we're going to do, we're going to take a break and come back much more right here on Game on Vegas as we roll along. We talked a lot about the Golden Knights,